Hi, it's Rev Kev. I wanted to talk about the Epstein files. I think we're all kind of reeling. Those of us that are aware and awake are kind of reeling because we have this information and we know what it means, and it's devastating stuff. So here we are trying to make sense of it. So I thought I'd reflect on that a little bit today. One thing that I'm feeling, I would say, is loneliness, because I exist in two worlds. I'm sure some of you watching do as well. I exist in the world of information, where truth is slipping out. I can find it on the X platform or Telegram or Substack, and then various other private individuals on the internet that are able to access good information and relay it. Then there's that other whole world, So I go to the gym and I look at all these television stations as I'm working out, and the chyrons are, talking about all sorts of things. I guess someone named Guthrie, was missing or something. And then, okay, and that's interesting. But, the people that are watching these kind of regular networks, or aren't watching anything at all, or have a look at local news or follow their local news stations, or maybe CNN or Fox, or they get it. There's just a whole different version of the world out there, and this is hardly being reported to them at all. So they just don't know. And that latter group is almost everybody I know, to be honest. I know very few, people in the former group, other than people I'd meet online. In my real life, people just don't do that. They're just living their lives, and they're normies. They do the normal world kind of thing. So I find myself sort of avoiding them, I guess, for the most part. Or sometimes I feel like it's my job to red pill them, to share information. Excuse me. And then what I realize is I'm just not any good at that for whatever reason. I share information, but I guess it's because I happen to be around a lot of extremely intelligent, critical thinking kind of people, but very normal people in their normal lives. They just don't. They're not really convincible. Like they need to discover things for themselves and learn things for themselves, or they're certainly not going to believe anything anybody like me tells them. And a lot of my family has me kind of labeled anyway as a conspiracy theorist, so they're not going to, they're not going to listen to anything I say. So these are all close family members. I'm not talking about some distant people. These are everybody I know. So perhaps you feel the same loneliness because you're trying to share information and others around you aren't interested. So that's hard. But what's even worse is just the details of the world itself. I mean, we're learning things that are just devastating. And I think the picture is now extremely clear. The things that we've believed for a while now have been proven. But it's even worse than we thought, and it's even clearer than we thought. So I wanted to talk about my perspective about that today, about what I think, about how I think we should describe our world, and maybe a little bit about what we can do about it or should do about it, because that's the question everybody is asking on X anyway. Now that we know all this, what do we do? It's obvious that voting doesn't work. All the parties are equally, corrupt and criminal. So that didn't work. What's next? So I think I know what's next, and it's not going to be pretty, but I think I have some suggestions for ways that we could fight more effectively. So let me see if I can find This is from Matthias Desmond, and I put it on my Substack yesterday. Matthias Desmond is also a psychotherapist like me, and he was one of the people that talked about mass formation. He was one of the first people that really discussed what that was all about during the COVID situation. So he gained a lot of attention, especially from people like Robert Malone, who really started to go to him for wisdom about why so many people just kind of go along with things while they're happening. So in this particular Substack of his, which I think was incredibly good, he looked at history a little bit and then talked about what he found. And he found the work of Walter Lippmann. And I think Mr. Lippmann toiled somewhere around the 1920s or so. And this is how he characterized what he saw happening then and how he saw that evolving. I think you'll find his ideas prescient. The powerful, socially superior, successful, rich, urban social set is fundamentally international throughout the Western Hemisphere. And in many ways, London is its center. It counts among its membership the most influential people in the world, containing as it does the diplomatic set, high finance, the upper circles of the army and the navy, some princes of the church, a few great newspaper proprietors, their wives and mothers and daughters who wield the scepter of invitation. It is at once a great circle of talk and a real social set. But its importance comes from the fact that here at last the distinction between public and private affairs practically disappears. The private affairs of this set are public matters, and public matters are its private, often family affairs. The confinements of Margaret Asquith, like the confinements of royalty, as the philosophers say, in much the same universe of discourse as a tariff bill or parliamentary debate. So Lippmann is describing like a mafia there, like a small group of families whose kind of private business is the public business. So a small group of families essentially running things. And this is how he saw it then. And I think it's extremely prescient because that is exactly how I see it now. We have an oligarchy, a small group of influential, extremely wealthy families who are running things in mafia-like fashion, using a bunch of consigliaries to kind of do their management, do their dirty work. That, I think, is what the Epstein files in a nutshell have showed us. And it turns out these people are also extremely bad people, decrepit, immoral, terrible, narcissistic people, which makes the situation dire. So here's how Desmet reacts to that. Lippmann, hardly an anti-establishment thinker, describes a world governed by a small social organism of families for whom private and public interests largely coincide. The world is run by them as their private enterprise. Huxley, referring to Aldous Huxley, likewise saw global society evolving in this direction, an oligarchy that, assisted by an army of mind manipulators, rules under the banner of ultimate democracy. So I thought his use of the term mind manipulators there was amazing. So he's referring to today's CIA, the FBI, Mossad, and the media, and then a whole host of non-governmental organizations that are also in the censorship apparatus. All of these groups function to manipulate the minds of the public, essentially so they'll go along with whatever business these oligarchic families are presenting us with. So these families do what they do, they kind of push it out there, and to make sure we all kind of go along, these mind manipulators do what they do. They're paid extremely well to do what they do. So that really is the function of, the CIA media, is to manipulate the minds of Americans and indeed people around the world to kind of go along. So what we saw happening during the COVID, democide was just that. This sort of thing was thrown at us, and I'm definitely convinced that the oligarchy, created this thing. We have evidence that, through the Epstein files, that Epstein was involved in the pandemic preparedness project. They threw this thing out there. It was their agenda, probably for population control, maybe just to kill a lot of people because they wanted to, or maybe just to make money, to launder money to various entities, or a combination of all that. And then they used their mind manipulators, the CIA and the media and all these other censorship organizations, and YouTube and all these other things to get people to go along with it. That's what happened. So we saw it clearly happening during COVID, and now we know this is their MO for everything. This is how they do everything. Every conspiracy that has turned out to be true followed this pattern. These families, this mafia, gave us something they wanted us to abide or do or believe, and then they used their censorship folks to make sure we didn't stray, or that the critical thinkers weren't able to get to the fore to influence the international consciousness about things. They kept people in line. They kept people, they manufactured consent, as Noam Chomsky put it, to keep people in the same kind of place within the Overton window. So this is what they do. This is their MO. This is how the world functions. This is how people are governed. They give us stuff, they make sure we go along with it. So this, of course, isn't about the democratic process or, good governance, consensus building, Americans having an opinion, influencing what their government does, influencing what corporations do. This is, of course, a top-down, totalitarian process where the mafia creates stuff, pushes it at us, and makes us go along. Right? So both Huxley and Lippmann were talking about totalitarianism. So that's where we are. We have an oligarchy, and they function, they rule the world through totalitarianism. So is that crystal clear to you? I hope you're all understanding that that's what the Epstein files are about. That's what we've learned from all these releases. Okay, government is essentially non-existent or irrelevant. The mafia tells us what we're going to do and what we're supposed to believe. I'll read a little bit more. All the subcultures named by Lippmann appear in the Epstein files. The diplomatic, political world, let's say Clinton, Trump, the high finance world, J.P. Morgan, the Rothschild family, high military and intelligence circles, CIA and Mossad, religious authorities, including representatives of the Vatican Bank. I would also say, to some extent, the Christian Zionist infrastructure in the United States is sort of directly tied into, I would say, the oligarchy. They're sort of the foot soldiers for the oligarchy on the sort of Christian side of things. The academic world, Stephen Hawking, Noam Chomsky, owners of newspapers and media outlets, Robert Maxwell. I would certainly add the owners of the Washington Post and the New York Times, who are, directly tied into the oligarchy, if not part of the oligarchy themselves, right? And their wives and daughters who function as a kind of ceremonial masters. Ghislaine Maxwell. It's remarkable how accurately Lippmann, in 1922, described the international organism that is now, a century later, being pulled out from society's shadows. Perhaps only a spiritual world remains to be added to the list. And of course, that would include people like Deepak Chopra, the Dalai Lama, and maybe some other international spiritual leaders, maybe some Buddhists and Native American people, whatever. But it, as I said in my subtext, it sounds about right to me. So these are the members of the oligarchy and their henchmen today. There was different people back in 1922, but this is how it's evolved, as Lippmann and Huxley knew it would evolve. So these are the faces of the oligarchy today. So what do we do about it? Let me see if I can get rid of this thing here and just look at my picture. What do we do about it? Well, What happens when there's an unwanted oligarchy who is exerting totalitarian control on a large populace? I mean, I think that becomes the revolutionary condition, right? If you look throughout history, oligarchies grow, revolutions happen, and get rid of the oligarchs, right? So that's the stark truth. That's where we are. I mean, we are in a revolutionary place, i.e., the current oligarchy, which I'd rather call a mafia, because they use mafia tactics. That mafia, they're mind manipulators, their friends in government, need to go. So the good people of the planet, the people that aren't part of the oligarchy, and would like to have a life, would like to be able to participate in their own governments, to have some sense of self-determination or sovereignty, those people need to be able to find a way to eliminate this oligarchy. So how do you do it? Well, certainly violence is one way that historically that's been done. None of us wants violence, and it probably wouldn't work. This group has almost all the money in the world. They've got all the power. They've got all the guns and everything, and all the politicians are bribed that control the levers of the military, for instance. So violence wouldn't work, and nobody wants violence. So what's next? So my refrain for a while has been, and I put this in my book, living a good life, cultural secession, and nation building for men and women of the West. Our job is non-participation. So our job is to stop participating voluntarily in any of these things that the oligarchy is throwing at us. In any of the things that their mind manipulators, especially the media, is throwing at us. So regular people, guys out here in the hinterlands, running around in their farms and their pickup trucks, or blue-collar guys, working in the factories of New England, or the South, the regular Joes, the good folks on the left, the good populist folks on the left, who despise these large corporations and the concentration of money and wealth in the hands of a few. They need to get into the fray too. So we all need to join together and recognize this is not a left-right situation here. This is a bottom-up situation or top-down situation. The good people on the left and the right are together. The oligarchy, the totalitarians, are subjugating everybody else. So the bottom, us good people, I'm out here in rural Idaho, and that's where our energy is going to be coming from. We need to figure out a way to stop participating in anything that the oligarchy throws at us. If we take their fuel away, we stop, feeding them and funding them, they'll stop making money. They won't be able to sustain themselves. They need us. We're their slaves. We're their consumer class. We are their meal tickets. They need us to keep buying their stuff, keeping their systems rolling, enabling their healthcare systems, right? They need us. So our job is to stop consuming as much as humanly possible, but in particular, stop consuming the things that come directly from them. So if I were you and you're listening and you're a person that wants to join this populist revolution, I would ask you, where are you doing your banking? So of course all banks are bad because all banks are connected to the Federal Reserve. They're all getting that kind of dirty money. They're all involved in the usurious process. They all have credit cards and they're all part of it. But smaller local banks are less bad than the big banks. So who in this day and age would have any money in Bank of America, for instance? Or, who would have stocks with J.P. Morgan, for instance? So you want to really take all of your money away, to the extent you can, from these larger banks, for sure. you want to go after big agriculture. So why would you buy any food that's produced by some conglomerate? It doesn't make any sense. Buy all your food from local farmers, local business people, and if you have to shop in a supermarket, buy it from maybe an organic farmer or something that happens to sell his or her food to a supermarket. So be very selective about that. Use cash as much as humanly possible. Don't have any credit cards. Get rid of all your credit cards. Stop paying interest on anything. Like 50 or 60% of Americans have massive amounts of interest now. Stop it. Stop consuming healthcare. Live as healthfully and as naturally as possible. The less healthcare you have to consume, the less you're contributing to that Borg. And healthcare, as you probably know by now, is a massive scam. It's a massive money-making scam that feeds the sick model. And it feeds doctors that are getting rich off the system, corporations that are getting rich off of human health. So stop participating in that. Use healthcare when you must. Otherwise, try to stop participating. Then little things. I just mentioned this to my sister today. She wanted to buy Centrum vitamins for my mother and get rid of some of the other vitamins she was taking. I said, well, I just looked up who makes Centrum, and it's some corporation, but it used to be owned by Pfizer or GlaxoSmithKline. So don't buy multivitamins that are, produced by these big evil corporations. And Pfizer, of course, is a criminal corporation. We learned that during COVID. And all of these pharmaceutical companies are criminal, right? Stop using CVS and Rite Aid. Stop using the big corporate pharmacies. In my area, we happen to be blessed with some really good local pharmacies. Independent local pharmacies. Start using independent local pharmacies. Shop at independent stores. So you got some guy that's got some, market down the street. You might have to pay $1 more for something, but it's worth it to pay $1 more if you're acting on your principles. Right? So these are all things you can do. Do not participate. And there's 100 more things that you can think of on your own. But this is the revolution. This is the nonviolent revolution. This is how we stop it. This is how things stopped in the totalitarian Soviet Union. People just stopped going along with whatever their mafia was throwing at them. So you can do that today. You can start this today. You have to be intentional. Yeah, you have to live your life, but think of the opportunity this presents you. You can have a direct impact on the world just by your conscious decisions, just by what you do, right? Don't get me started on sports ball, but sports ball is, of course, the Roman Colosseum of today. It keeps us occupied, keeps us busy. We don't think about this mafia, what they're doing to us. And at the same time, you're watching sports ball on TV, and what do you see? All these commercials, pharmaceutical, crappy food, the worst stuff in the world, sex, sold constantly. So you're getting sports ball, which is a sort of adrenaline rush that kind of it keeps you addicted. You're getting all the corporate crap thrown at you at the same time, and you're stuck there having to absorb their mind control, right? What was the word before? Mind manipulation? Absorbing their mind manipulation. So stop watching sports ball, right? If you're going to watch the Super Bowl, okay. Don't watch the commercials. Do like I do. Leave the room when the commercials come on. And certainly, God forbid, don't ever watch the halftime show. Do not watch the Super Bowl halftime show. And don't watch this lame Turning Point USA halftime show either with Kid Rock or whatever. I mean, it isn't any better. So live intentionally. Fight the revolution. All right? But what I really wanted to do is to let you know, if you're with me, like me, you're feeling some loneliness because a lot of people in your life just don't have any information. And a lot of people live in quiet desperation, or they don't want to have to deal with anything. They just compartmentalize, and I don't know. And then they just want to go out. They just want to do their thing, and they want to go out shopping, they want to go for a walk, they want to have fun with their grandkids, whatever. That's fine. There are going to be a lot of people like that. But that's not you, and that's not me. Our calling is to fight the revolution. And we know this is the time in life that we have been summoned to, but to fight. If you're a man, if you have any, you know, self-esteem, self-respect, and you want to defend your civilization, you want to protect your people, you have to fight. And I just gave you a way that you can fight, right? If you're prone to violence, and that's what you want to try, good luck to that. Good luck to you with that, but I don't see that working for sure. I do understand people wanting to create like redoubts in certain states, places to go, where there are a lot of people in Idaho certainly that are coming here for that reason, to sort of protect themselves around like-minded people. I certainly understand that. But I'm offering a very assertive way of fighting that I think can have a tremendous, tremendous impact. So I suggest that you do that. Take a look at my book. You can Google it. Living a Good Life, Cultural Secession for People of the West. Cultural Secession and Nation Building for People of the West. Take a look at it. Find it under my name, Kevin Kervick, and buy it. It'll cost you $10. But I kind of lay out this plan. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of income over the years, by recognizing the moment we're in and by pushing back because I felt it was my moral responsibility. And so, of course, I've lost customers and business and clients and you name it, friends. So I've lost maybe, who knows? If you look at 20 years back, 25 years I've been doing this, how much does the guy make a year? I may have lost millions of dollars in income by taking a stand. So if you can buy my book for $10, I'd appreciate that. It'll help me out a little bit. Or make a donation to my church. Go to the website, Living a Good Life Church. I started the church to provide another vehicle to community organize to do this. You can make a donation there. If there's a rich person out there and you want to donate, like several $1,000s or $50,000 or something, that'll really keep me going for a couple of years. And I can do this work, so I would really appreciate that. livingagoodlifechurch.org, and you'll see the donation page. I'd be really excited about that. But even if you want to give me $1 or $2, I'm in the fight. I'm community organizing. I'm getting our people together, and I'm creating a way to fight back, and I am directly fighting back. So if you're feeling frustrated, you don't know what to do, well, help me out. And I can fight for you. If you can't fight because your life situation won't allow it, maybe throw a few bucks my way so I can do a little bit more. Because I'm just getting by. I'm blessed. I happen to own some property, but I don't have any cash flow because I don't have enough income because nobody wants to work with me anymore. So, in both of my professions, so I can use help. But that wasn't why I did the video, to ask for help. But at the end, I thought, well, I'll throw that out there if you really wanted to, and I'll try to put the links below too. But I've given you the strategy. And I've conceptualized the situation for you, I hope in very simplistic and stark terms, so you understand what we're up against here. The moral of the story is we have to overthrow this oligarchy. We cannot go on as a people of the world with a totalitarian oligarchy, giving us our lives and telling us what we have to do, and then using their mind manipulators to make us do what they want us to do. No self-respecting, sovereign person could possibly live his life that way. And we as a people, and when I say we as a people, I'm probably talking about my people from European stock, in rural areas like me. I mean, those are my people. We as a people can't live this way. We can't continue to live this way. We have a moral responsibility and a responsibility to our ancestors to honor our heritage and to not allow these totalitarians to tell us what to do anymore. We can't do it. So we have to create new nations that will allow us to be sovereign people again. All right? Hope that makes sense to you. I guess I'll put this on Rumble and YouTube, and maybe I'll even put it on Twitter today to see how that goes, or X, whatever it's called. This is Rev Kev, and I really appreciate you watching.